Okay. Seems like we get it running. Before we proceed, everybody, please make sure you change your screen name if you want to receive resource development CCUs, so I can check you in for the session properly. So I can recognize your first name and last name when we are doing that on our back end. Oh, let's do that. Everybody, happy International Coaching Week. We are so glad you were able to join us here at ICF Houston. And just a recap, International Coaching Week, it's a global initiative where we are not only connecting to each other, but also promoting coaching globally. And if you look at the ICF Global website, they have a page dedicated to International Coaching Week. And I am not exaggerating. All this week, every hour, because we're all working across the globe, you can find something helpful. Most of them are free. Most of them are free for members. Some of them low pay. You may go there and explore. And also on our side, here in Houston, we have few more events. Besides today's amazing presentation, we have also this Wednesday demo coaching session with Marsha Reynolds. Make sure you sign up for that. And this Saturday, we are doing in-person event at the Rice University with an amazing Sonia Kalui. It is a improv for better coaching and leadership, an amazing opportunity to disconnect with the whole world, connect with your tribe, and be together. Okay, now about our today's amazing guest. If you need formal bio, you can read it on the screen. Let me just introduce Mary in my way. First thing that you always notice about her, she is incredibly generous with what she teaches. Besides her amazing program, everywhere she goes, and last 3 years, I met Mary for so many different educational events for free. In a very casual conversation, she shares all her knowledge and experience without any hesitation on holding back. And second thing, this year at the TCC retreat, Texas Coaching Coalition retreat, it's a big fest here in Texas for coaches. I won in the raffle Mary's self-study course on Simply Get Clients. So I got to test and experience it firsthand. And I was amazed how she was able to combine that whole teaching and telling you what to do with a totally coaching approach. And as any coach, you probably know it could be difficult when you know very well when the person what they need to do, but you still need to be very mindful what's comfortable for them, what they are open to do, and explore how everything you teach them is connected to their values. And Mary does that perfectly. So, ladies and gentlemen, our first International Coaching Week event, Mary Kravitz. Mary, floor is yours.
Thank you, Tati. Thank you for that very enthusiastic introduction. So the presentation I'm doing today about niche, I usually do it in 75 to 90 minutes. So I'm going to jump straight in so that we have every single minute we possibly can and a little bit of time to interact as well. So we're in a little bit of a tightened time frame today. So I'm going to jump in. In the chat, there is a handout that makes it easier to follow along. However, you're going to be absolutely fine if you don't have it. Just if you like to take written notes, it's a great little way to organize them. Okay, so we're thinking about client generation. You're putting on your business development hat now. And what I want to ask you to start with is just a question, and that is, do you ever feel like this? When it comes to growing your business and running your life, my brain has too many tabs open. Anyone feel? Okay, yes, I'm seeing the smiles and nods. Well, the good news is that today is not, and all of the teaching I do is not about doing more and more and more. It's about understanding how to maximize what's already working. And I'm always excited to start this teaching journey with you because I know you're good. I know you're here to do good in the world with your work. But when you are having a trouble, like if you're getting into perfectionism around a niche or feeling stuck, then you're not attracting clients. You're not making as big of an impact as you want in the world. You're not making your mark. And that's why this work is so important. That's why the work we're doing together today matters. So, the work we're doing today is how to attract great clients with or without a niche. Now, this is the right place. You're in the right place if you're number one, if you are a newer coach, you're in your first few years of business and you want to better understand niche so you can stop feeling overwhelmed by marketing and worrying about where your next client is coming from. It's also good for you if you are number two, a more experienced coach and curious how a niche could streamline your business development. So attracting new clients takes less of your time and you are ready to start focus on scaling. So, what we're going to dig into today, here's what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about what a niche is, the purpose it serves, and whether or not you actually need one to succeed. You're going to discover where to find clients who can afford your services. We're going to go over the 6 essential elements of an effective client generation plan that makes it easier to attract clients, grow your income, and make a bigger impact in the world. And we're going to take a breath before we jet off to the next thing to create lasting impact. That's where we evaluate, reflect, and start putting some plans in place so this information actually sticks. Okay, a few housekeeping items. I've made a brief check-in about halfway through for Q&A to address specific concerns. More importantly, you'll have the opportunity to get your questions answered one-on-one later. All right, second thing is, as awkward as this will sound to those of you on the call live right now, if you are listening to the recording right now, any resources I might mention during this session, you're welcome to reach out from the future, reach out to me for them. All right, last tip about how to get the most out of today, and that is to do your homework in class. Do as many of the exercises and the assessments today as you possibly can during our time together so we can have your questions answered and hopefully have a shorter to-do list afterwards. Sound good? All right. So that's all the housekeeping. It is officially out of the way. So I'm going to ask you now to open up your chat window. Open up your little chat, put your hands on the keyboard. I'm going to ask you a question in just a second, and I want you to type the first thing that comes to mind. No overthinking. Here is the question. Why is this topic important to you? Why is this topic important to you? You probably have 1 or 2 other things that you could be doing with your time today. So let me read from the chat what we are talking about today, or what people are showing up for today. I want to expand my business. I need to attract more clients, need to find clients. I keep wavering on the niche and its importance in my business. Oh, yay, good. That's exactly what we're going to talk about. Attract clients. I'm starting right now and I want to grow. Success for clear marketing. Need to have a consistent pipeline. Too many niche ideas. Ah, yes. I feel uncertain how to find clients as I get started. Everyone asks what my niche is, but I was trained to coach anyone and don't want to paint myself in a corner if niche isn't calling to me yet. Oh, you're going to love one particular piece. You're going to know it when you see it. I have many offerings. Is a niche necessary? Not sure I have a niche. Okay. This is so great. And there's 2 things I love about this. One, this tight focus on niche, and also the broader focus of client generation. I think everybody's going to leave here feeling very happy. All right. So before we dive into the content that I am going to build from the ground up for you, I personally find it really important to know where this information, where teachers get their stuff from. So I want to assure you this is not something that's theory. It's not something I read in the book and I'm repurposing. This all comes from my in the trenches experience. So just a little my background. I mean, today, yes, I run a very successful training company. I've owned it for almost 16 years now. And we've helped thousands of coaches to grow their businesses. It's incredibly fulfilling work with, the best people I could possibly work with. And the thing is the way it got started didn't look anything like this. And you may be able to relate to this. So the first thing I did was I made the terrifying decision to take a leap out of a stable but soul-crushing work situation. And I was on fire. I was so excited. I was like, yes, I am aligned with my values. I am leveraging my strengths. I am contributing to the prosperity of others. But I was also running in a dozen different directions. I wasn't charging what I was worth. I didn't even know what I should be charging. My marketing was essentially spaghetti against the wall, trying new things, running, pushing, adding more to my plate. I'm sure it's going to be a surprise to exactly no one that in 2 years I completely burned out. I was diagnosed with extreme adrenal exhaustion, and suddenly the time and energy I could devote to my business was severely restricted, and I still needed the income to be coming in. So, as I was struggling to figure out how to survive this crisis, a question kind of broke through all the fear and the brain fog, and it changed everything. And this is actually the first thing I'm going to recommend you write down. The question that came through was simply, what's working? What's working? I didn't have time or energy to chase down the latest, greatest marketing trend or figure out what social media was doing with its algorithms this week. I needed to know that whatever strategy I put my very limited time and energy into would actually produce results. So, starting with that one question over time, starting with that one question, my business actually started to grow as I recovered my health. And then over time, it developed into this bigger client generation system. This is the Simply Get Clients method. It's the reason my clients consistently grow their businesses 50% or more. It's what has doubled my business several times over. And it gives us this sense of relief that no matter what happens, no matter health things pop up, parents things pop up, we have the time freedom, the financial freedom, and the emotional ease that comes from having a structure in place so everything doesn't grind to a halt when we take advantage of that freedom. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's start with what a niche is, the purpose it serves, and whether you actually need one to succeed. So if you do a quick Google search for the definition of niche, it will reveal utter chaos. Okay. Yes, you can find thousands of definitions. So to simplify, here's the definition I chose. A niche is a specific a market segment or target audience with distinct needs, preferences, or characteristics. Identifying and focusing on a niche enables the business to position itself strategically within the market and maximize its potential for success. Okay, so all this sounds great. I mean, who wouldn't want to maximize your potential for success, right? And yet, there are several common missteps that coaches make with regards to niche. So I want to bring those into the light to start our conversation. So the first misstep is waiting for a niche, waiting until you figure out your niche to grow your coaching business, to put yourself out there. And this makes your success dependent on a niche, which significantly increases the time it takes you to ramp up and become profitable. So waiting for a niche as if that's going to be the determining factor in your success. Research mode. So this is researching too much. This is where really smart people get stuck because research might be your comfort zone. I mean, yes, do your research about your target market and potential niche, but you just can't stay in that mode. Third one is niche and done. This is thinking all the work you do in developing your niche will get the clients for you. Now, this might sound very obvious, but it's easy to make this simple assumption and it can absolutely keep you invisibly stuck. And the last one is the anti-niche. This might be you if you're saying things like, I want to help everyone, I don't want to leave anyone out or limit myself. But this can also be problematic because it can scatter and dilute your efforts, leaving you feeling that whole spaghetti against the wall thing. So where do we go from here? We're going to start by taking our focus off the definition of a niche and instead look at the purpose of a niche. The purpose of a niche is to provide clarity, focus, and direction in every aspect of your business development. Making attracting clients easier. With the caveat, this is so you spend less time marketing and more time coaching. So the purpose of a niche is to provide clarity, focus, and direction in every aspect of business development to make attracting clients easier. Now, here's the thing. Understanding the purpose frees you from thinking that niche is the goal. Got it? Understanding the purpose frees you from thinking that niche is the goal. So now we can look at two paths to achieving this purpose. So there's two paths to clarity, focus, and direction. There is the niche path, and there's what I like to think of as the earn while you learn path. That's the one I took. So how do you choose between these? Well, you take the niche path when you are 100% clear about the specific market segment you serve. It often feels very natural. You have a shared history of some kind with this segment. Your network is within that segment. For example, one coach I worked with was retiring from a 30-year career of executive level experience in IT. She had experience, credibility, and a significant network of women in IT. So a niche for her, the narrower focus, it just made sense. It was very natural. Now, the second path is the earn while you learn. And this is going to make anybody who really identified with the anti-niche, it's going to make you very happy. So instead of having to lock in a niche, possibly worrying that you're getting it wrong or missing the boat, what you want to do instead is consider who is your ideal client and where do they gather. Now we're going to dive deeper into some actual brainstorming and discovery within just a few minutes. But the thing to remember here with either one, niche or earn while you learn, is the purpose is to provide clarity, focus, and direction in every aspect of business development to make attracting clients easier. So for the rest of our work here, we're going to focus less on niche and instead tenaciously go after that clarity, focus, and direction so business development starts getting easier today. So in case you feel like you're the only one who struggles with client generation and business development, I want to share a story that I hope you find is encouraging. So this is John Rex, who had started his coaching business as one of those rare new coaches who realized very quickly that his corporate success and his skills as a coach didn't translate into attracting new clients. So during our initial breakthrough call together, he had shared he'd gotten some clients, but it was very hit or miss. He didn't have a strategy and a plan that provided what you're learning today, the clarity, focus, and direction to attract new clients consistently. So we started by doing the exercise you're going to do in a minute, and then we built his entire complete client attraction plan. It didn't take up all his time. It leveraged his existing network and resources and kind of busted up all his old assumptions about sales and marketing because it felt genuine. So here's what happened for him. He doubled an already strong year. This is all about clarity, focus, and direction. So let's keep going with that. And I'm going to give you an example of the earn while you learn approach. Actually, I'm going to do that now. I don't have a slide for it, but I'm going to give you an example because I think it's important to be able to see that. So actually, I'm going to go back a couple slides because, yeah. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example here with the earn while you learn. So this is my story. So I knew that my ideal clients, here's what I knew about them. They wanted to make a difference in the world. They were service-based. They usually had some issues around money, and they didn't love sales and marketing. They really wanted to be doing the client work. So that was my ideal client. That's what I knew about them. And I knew they gathered in a handful of industries. I knew they were probably accountants, attorneys, doctors, financial planners, coaches, and consultants. So I had about 6 areas I could look for them. And then I'd go to where they gathered. So I'd go to just general networking and business owner type of networking organizations. I spoke for them. I would go to them. And what happened was over time, I learned by getting hired by these different people that some of them weren't so into me. So I didn't really hit it off with attorneys so much. That didn't work so great for me. I worked with some financial planners, good people, but it just wasn't the right fit for me. But here's the thing is like, as I narrowed down, worked with some accountants, it was fine, but it wasn't great. And I just kept working and working through this earn while you learn approach. And by the time I chose my niche, I was making well over multiple six figures and felt very comfortable saying, I've done the research, I've done the earn while you learn approach, and now I'm going to choose coaches as my niche. Okay, so I wanted to make sure to kind of provide that example before we go into this all important part of this. So whether you've already niched or not, we're going to roll up our sleeves and do some work to discover where to find clients who can afford your services. This is one of the most common questions I get asked by clients. Let me just show you where this is on the map. And so this is how I'm going to approach this. I'm going to give you a little smidge of training on this, a bit of training on it. You're going to do a little brainstorming for yourself, and then I'm going to answer some questions. Okay, so we're talking about where does your ideal client gather? So we better start with what does ideal mean? Well, ideal means not everyone. Does not mean the people you'd be willing to work with. You obviously you can accept clients who want lower commitment services, but part of getting momentum and building a profitable, sustainable business is to build your strategy around your ideal top level clients. And this is really important. Okay. You can work with whoever you want, but you've got to build your strategy around those ideal top level clients in order to attract them. All right, let's see. What else do we need to keep in mind? These people, your ideal client is someone who is ready to buy now, and they are interested in the most profitable services you offer. So I want you to get that person in mind. Who is that ideal client? So now I'm going to have you brainstorm a couple things. No overthinking. Take a minute and write down a few details about your ideal client. What is their demographic? It's like their age, gender, level of career, industry. I'm going to give you a moment to write that down. You want to think about their psychographic. What are their desires, their fears? What are they wrestling with? What are they emotionally going through? What are they wanting or wanting to avoid? So jot a few things down. And then what do you know about like where they are in their life right now? Is there a career or life event, a milestone or turning point that they're going through right now? Are they facing retirement? Are they facing divorce? Are they facing getting married? There isn't always an answer for this particular one, but just to prompt your thinking about your ideal client. Now, where do your ideal clients gather? And this is the kind of detail. The reason we're going through this is the kind of detail and specificity that when you don't dive into it, it can keep you spinning. Specificity is our best friend when it comes to business development. So getting specific so that when you're doing business development work, you're executing rather than planning to plan or just figuring it out. So where do your ideal clients gather? There's four main categories of these. They gather around groups, associations, and events. Industries, I think of those as target markets. Centers of influence, I'll explain that in a moment. And social media. Now, social media, I'll give that a little nod in a second. But I want to talk about centers of influence because I think you're probably pretty familiar with groups, associations, and events. This is conferences, it's industry associations. Industries are like, legal, medical, etc. Centers of influence. So, centers of influence are people who come into contact with your ideal client, let's say 10 times or more a month. Okay. These are the people that you can create relationships with because they can refer you consistently. This is probably one of the most overlooked opportunities for growing a business is identifying your centers of influence and then intentionally creating relationships with them. Now, social media is good, but it has to be given the right role in your client generation strategies. It is not lead generation, but you can find your people there. And by the way, it's not necessarily all of these. I want you to start brainstorming some ideas, but I will give you an example. So for instance, I had a client he only worked with CEOs. He only coached CEOs of like, I think they were called emerging growth, fast growth, something like that, companies. And so CEOs, they don't gather anywhere. They're not going to go to an association event, generally speaking. They're very safeguarded, if you will. They're hard to get to. But what they do is they trust their merger and acquisition bankers. They depend on them. So my client, his main strategy was to create relationships with merger and acquisition bankers who have those relationships with the CEO, those trusted relationships with CEOs, so that when the CEOs needed the resource, he was very easily referred in, getting past all the gatekeepers. So take a moment, and I'm going to give you literally a minute to just brainstorm some ideas of where your ideal clients gather in these 4 categories. Oh, actually, before I do that, I'm going to also give you this. If you're not sure where they gather, completely valid. There are a handful of search strings that you can put in. Now, this is in your handout. I'm also going to put it into the chat. I just dropped it into the chat for you. I always say, if you don't know the answer, ask the people who know or ask the system that knows. And search engines, AI are very good at finding this kind of thing. So for instance, you would type in events for CEOs in Houston, conference for nurse practitioners in Dallas. So descriptor is who's your ideal client, and the location, it can be virtual or you can actually have a physical location. So keep brainstorming. Hope this helps. And then we'll go into a bit of a question, Q&A. Okay. So I want to take a moment here. We'll just take a few minutes. I want to make sure to get all the content in, but I want to ask, like, what is standing out from the content so far? This is our audience participation portion of our program today. What's standing out, or what did you notice, or what question do you have? What clarifying question?
Hey Mary, this is Sherry. Good,
Hey,
great to see
Sherry.
you.
Good to see
Um,
you.
I think what stands out for me is again putting my client hat on. Like if I needed a coach or if I needed help, where would I go look?
Yes.
And when you were talking about industry adjacent people,
There we
I
go.
think
Great.
oftentimes it's because again, when I think about even just my own business, the people that I'm working with came through referrals
Mm-hmm.
with somebody who was actually outside of my immediate industry.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thanks, Sherry. And Kara, I saw you had unmuted as well.
Yeah, thank you. Just the thought of like where to find clients who can afford coaching is like so obvious, but was very helpful.
Well, thank you for saying that because I think sometimes it's those obvious baseline things that people like, it can keep you so stuck and spinning. I mean, I had someone who's like, I really want to work with kindergarten teachers. How do I reach them? I was like, well, your client isn't probably not going to be kindergarten teachers. It's going to be school systems. Do you want to work with getting into school systems? Because if you are trying to reach an industry or a market or a client that has to be convinced that what you do is valuable, it is too long of a sales cycle. It is too, and I don't like being in the convincing business anyway. So afford your services. Another way I like to say it is people who value your service, hold on, I got to get this right. People for whom your services are valuable to them at the level you charge. So that means they can take what you do and for what you charge, they see the value and it will bring that value in their life. Right. Thanks for that, Kara. Elizabeth, I'd seen you'd
Yeah,
unmuted
hi.
too. Hi.
So a couple things. One, I have the opportunity to continue refining my niche.
Mm-hmm.
And then also thinking through what are the ancillary services my clients are already utilizing to create those referrals.
Yes. Yes, yes. That's the who already has their foot in the door
Mhm.
question. Yes, great way to put it. Thanks, Elizabeth. All right. Any other comments or questions? Yeah, Eileen.
Thank you, Mary. I also say the point you made about who gives me energy in terms of who I want to work with.
Yeah.
That
Oh,
that
yeah.
was a really powerful takeaway for me.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And the fact is, like when I started, like the people who lit me up wasn't really like I couldn't be that picky. I mean, there's just a phase in business where sometimes it's like, I like living indoors and eating food, so I'm just going to take the clients who pay me money. And they didn't make my heart sing like coaches did. I work, anyway, I won't name industries, but there were a couple there that it was just like, oh my gosh, make it stop. Real estate. Okay. And, but as you build and refine your strategy, and I think of it as doing the repetitions, the outreach, the conversations, the messaging, like really refining the strategy, then that was where I came to finally, where I was like, I am finally at a place where I can make this distinction, feel very comfortable. Now, anyone want to take a guess how long it took me to claim my niche of coaches?
5 years.
5 years. Okay. Any other guesses?
3 years.
3 years. Okay. Any other?
8.
8. Well, none of you went over, so that would still count as a winner. Kara would win, but it's 12.
Wow.
Yeah. So why I tell you that is because I hope it kind of makes you go, okay, there's time. I was probably at about 230,000 before I made the switch. So, I mean, one of the biggest reasons I started doing this talk is because I wanted people to remove the barrier of niche between you and making a good living. Yeah. Okay. So real quick before I go on to the next stuff is one thing I hear over and over is, oh, it was referrals, referrals. So what I want to do right now is take 90 minutes to talk about referral generation, but obviously we did not schedule that. So instead, what I'm going to need to do is just give you a resource around this. Because referrals is the number one way that coaches get clients, but it's often seen as this thing that just kind of happens. It's not like, oh, it's a strategy. I always hear people going, well, someday I'll be able to do like you grow out of referrals, which is crazy. They're the best strategy and they're absolutely something that you can put energy specifically, intentionally into if you know how to do it. So what I'm going to do, my gift to you is I'm going to give you a training. It's called Referral Generation Made Simple. And it has the kind of the philosophy of it, of relationship-based referrals, how to thank people, how to ask without feeling awkward, how to qualify people to see if they'd be good referral partners. I want to get that to you. And then I'm going to also add, because the second biggest way coaches get clients is through speaking, and not everybody wants to do speaking. But if you do, the first barrier is getting booked. And so I have a training called Fill Your Speaking Calendar, and it outlines like exactly the strategy I use with my team to get booked. So we're going to do our homework in class. If you would like those 2 trainings, again, they are my treat. They're just going to come straight to your inbox. I'm going to have you send me an email. My email is very conveniently right below my name, right here, Mary@simplygetclients.com. And if you put in the subject line the word smile, because I know more referrals will make you smile, put the subject line smile. And go ahead and do that now, because I know that putting this on a to-do list for afterwards means that can happen probably never. So I just put in the chat. Mary, oh, thank you. Thanks, Tati. Okay, she was right on top of it. Go ahead and do that now, and I will start queuing up the next section. Okay, so we're gonna jump into the 6 essential elements of an effective client generation plan. Because the thing is that what did we say? What did I say earlier? That getting a niche is not the goal, and clients is the goal. Income, impact, that's the goal. So when we take niche, we did some work around that. Where do clients gather who can afford our services? I want to zoom out and look at the whole structure of what client generation looks like, because most coaches, they learn a little bit here, a little bit there, kind of scattershot, or they will get overly wrapped up in one little detail like niche. And neither of these things lead to momentum and growth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to equip you with a bigger picture understanding of client generation, regardless of whether you're in early stages or more experienced, so that you can get more consistency and control over attracting high quality clients who can afford your services. What we're going to do is you're going to do a simple evaluation to understand what you have right now. Some of these things might feel great in your business, others a little unpredictable. So we need to figure out which is which and what needs your attention. So I'm going to simplify this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to define each of these 6 essential elements, and I'm going to have you evaluate from 1 to 10 how clear they are in your business. 1 is low, 10 is high. All right, and we're going to start with the easy one over here on the left with values and vision. So when you have your values and vision clear, you create a sense of conviction. This gives you the courage to ask to be paid what you're worth, gives you the willingness to put yourself out there, even if you are risking rejection. So on a scale of 1 to 10, are you clear about your values and vision? And by the way, just this is for you on your paper. Please don't put this in the chat. It would be very confusing. All right, pricing and packaging. All right. So when you know that your pricing reflects the value of your services, when it's aligned with your financial goals and your packages are clearly defined, a lot of things click into place. You can dial in exactly how much lead generation activity you need to do. You're not feeling put on the spot when you're asked about your programs, and you don't get tripped up when you get to the money part of your sales conversations. So bottom line question is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how clear and confident are you that your pricing is where it needs to be to reach your financial goals without overworking? All right, next is ideal client. We did a little work on this today. So this is so important, it bears repeating. When describing your ideal client, you never start the sentence with the words, "I'd be willing to work with." You can take any client you want, but to create a steady stream of great paying clients, the strategy has to be built around your ideal client. That's who you're going to be able to serve at the highest level, and they're going to pay you what you're worth. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how clear are you about who your ideal client is and where you can find prospects who can afford your services? All right. Element 4 is messaging. Messaging is all the words that appear everywhere in your business. Messaging is magnetic when it quickly articulates what your ideal clients want from their perspective, not yours. So you think about, what are ideal clients experiencing before they work with you? What are they dreaming about? What are they worrying about? And when I'm working with my clients on their client generation plan, this is my favorite part of the work, because it's the moment I can see where they move from this feeling of having to explain coaching and convince people of the value to this place of understanding how to create curiosity and attraction for the value that they bring. So on a scale of 1 to 10, assess how effectively do you communicate the value of your services, so when you meet people, they quickly want to have a conversation about working together. Next is lead generation. And what's most important here is that you define and then implement a very specific set of actions that directly lead to sales conversations. So lead generation is not about being visible or just putting yourself out there. When your actions are clearly defined for lead generation, you create a lead generation formula. And this helps you stop worrying about where your next client is coming from, or are you doing enough things, or are you doing the right things? On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you about your ability to bring in new leads consistently? And then the last piece is, can you confidently convert a prospect into a paying client? This means having a sales process in place that removes the guesswork of, how do I get people to see the value? How do I explain but not over-explain so they want to work with me? In a corporate setting, how do you make sure that proposals don't get lost in the shuffle of decision makers? So last assessment, on a scale of 1 to 10, are you confident in your sales conversations and consistently get hired as a result? Okay, so I want you to take in the entire system. Take a look at this. What I want you to understand is that within this framework, for each of these elements, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of options to choose from, which is both the good and the bad news. Because it's the good news is it means that you can create your unique expression, your unique approach, while being strategic with this framework. The bad news is that it's a lot to sort through. But if you do, then you end up with a plan that brings in clients that feels genuine and authentic for you. So this is the first step, identifying the elements of a client generation system. And then to get to a place where you have tens across the board, the next thing to do is to sort through all the options for each element, kind of like the process we started today with the ideal client. And you figure out, like, what's going to work best for you, for your clients, what's going to be most effective. And remember, each of these is linked to the other, so this has to be looked at like a system. And you know, there's definitely a learning curve. You know, growing a business, it takes work. And most coaches, they don't have a background in this. And that's probably why so many coaches do choose to go through our foundations course, our client attraction cohort programs, to get that structure and accountability instead of going through the trial and error cycle that can be a little bit frustrating on your own. Okay, so step 1 is getting the plan together. And then the next step is, what do you need to put in place now in order to stay on track and implement consistently? And that's a question we have to answer with all of our clients. And again, a great story around this. Kimberly is a great example, because like most coaches, her vision and values were clear, but how to attract clients was definitely not. And she was just in a place where she was discouraged because she was always second guessing where to put her efforts to grow her business. And and like me, and maybe like you, she also had a creative streak. So she kept trying new things to grow the business. But trying new things and learning new things, it only gave the illusion of progress instead of getting traction and growth. And not getting traction, it doesn't come from a lack of effort. It doesn't come from a lack of brilliance. It's from a lack of clarity. So getting clarity on a breakthrough call is how Kimberly and I kicked things off. And then we worked together in a cohort. Week by week, we thoughtfully designed her unique approach to each of these 6 essential elements to client generation. And we made sure it didn't crush her creativity, but rather focused it. So she knew with certainty the work she put into her business would actually pay off. Within a few months, her first success is she was able to leave her corporate job. Since then, she's been published in Harvard Business Review, created her own brand, and all kinds of things. But this was the foundation for her. So I know you're super happy for Kimberly, but let's talk about you. What is it going to take to create lasting impact from what you learned here today? And this is where we're going to take all this stuff that I just crammed into your brain and kind of step back from it and look at it really big picture. So there's a couple of things we're going to do here, a quick assessment and a question. So the first thing you're going to do based on how you rated yourself and looked at the other content, what I'm going to ask you to do is self-diagnose your top challenge. Usually what I find with my clients, it's either one or more of three things that are happening. It's either your strategy is shaky, your lead generation formula is unclear, or implementation is inconsistent. So let me flesh this out for you. If it's your strategy, you probably get up every day, you start working, you're off and running. At the end of the day, you look around and wonder, did I do anything to grow the business intentionally? Your days will often feel reactive and busy, but not necessarily attracting new clients. So that's a strategy challenge. So how do you know if it's your lead generation formula? Well, that would be if everything's kind of hit or miss. You're pulling in some ideal clients, but the most part, it's inconsistent. And this really shows up like an income roller coaster. One day you're on cloud 9, the next day just blows, and you just never know what you're going to get when you wake up in the morning. So that's a lead generation formula challenge. And then how do you know if it's implementation? Well, implementations usually look like you've got color-coded everything going on. You love strategic planning, it's all mapped out, and you, at the end of the day, you realize that you've beautifully reworked your plan, but didn't put it into action. So with that information, take a look again at your ratings in the last exercise, any notes you made, your top challenge, just see what's standing out for you. Are there any patterns that you see emerging? Please just reflect. I'm going to give you a moment and make a note of anything you notice. Now, regardless of which one of these seems to be your biggest challenge, I do want you to know two things. Number one, it's almost always more than one. You've got this one main challenge, but I can guarantee the other two are taking turns and showing up. Number two, solving these challenges, that's what I'm here for. It's kind of my superpower, and it's the way I make an impact for change makers like you. All right, in a minute, I'm going to give you your second question for creating lasting impact. And after that, we'll have maybe a little time for a few takeaways. But the thing is, before we tackle that, I want to give you a moment to give the logical side of your brain a break and get the creative centers of your mind on board with a short imagine exercise. So do this. Put your pen down, take your hands off the keyboard. Take a deep breath. And I invite you to imagine having a steady stream of great clients coming in. These are clients who happily pay you what you're worth. You're making a difference. You're known for your expertise and your brilliance. And to attract those clients, you have a plan. And it's not just any plan. It's a plan full of things you love to implement, things that are simple and specific and clear. So every part of your business feels genuine and natural. You know what to do. You know where to go. And you know what to say to take prospects from that first meeting to signing on the bottom line as a client. And you do this with confidence and with consistency and with ease. Take another deep breath. Open your eyes. All right, is that a vision you could get behind? Yes, and does your brain feel a little refreshed? I hope so, because we're ready for the second question. Here it is. What is your plan? What is your plan to address your biggest challenge or to get tens across the board with client generation? And how will you integrate that into your current business? Now, if this is bringing up stress for you, don't worry. I'm going to show you how to get some help in just a minute, but start now. Write down 2 or 3 specific things you will need to get that plan started. So you're going to want to set aside some time to flesh this plan out later, obviously. But here's the thing. If you've already been struggling for a while to come up with a plan, or you're thinking about the plan you already have and you're saying to yourself, this is just not getting me where I want to go fast enough, then let's schedule a time to talk and figure it out together. Let's figure it out so a year from now, we can be celebrating your successes instead of you struggling with the exact same things. Because the thing is, regardless of whether you're in your first few years of business or you're down a road a bit and client generation is kind of getting lost in the shuffle, scheduling a complimentary breakthrough call, it's a very natural next step if you've been feeling stuck, kind of like you're spinning your wheels and you're just not sure why. So, I mean, if that's where you are and you're committed to growing your business, you're not in that should I do this or not stage, then take me up on this call, because together we're going to sit down, we're going to map out where to focus your efforts for the next 3 to 6 months. So you're clear on the best use of your time and energy for the specific phase of business you're in right now. And if you're in the phase where you want to cross the next 6-figure mark, but you're thinking left to my own devices, exactly how am I going to get there? Then it's definitely the right time to schedule a call. I'm going to give you the link in a second, but there are 2 criteria to qualify for the call. So number 1, be willing to receive straightforward feedback. It is a short call and I have to have your permission to get to the point. And second, be open to consider investing to work together beyond this initial call, if we both can see that it will give you that tens across the board plan so you're attracting clients consistently. Fair enough? All right, here's the link, breakthroughcall.biz. You just pick a date, pick a time. We're going to take a bird's eye view of your business through my discovery process. You are not going to pick my brain. I am not going to do an extended sales pitch because nobody wants that. And it'll be obvious if we want to work together beyond that call. All right, I'm actually going to put that in the chat if it hasn't been done already. Yep, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to see if I have one more thing here. Oh, I do. Fantastic. All right. So I launched this business after hearing a quote, and I was so discouraged. I was so run down. I was so beat up. And it was a business that I had created. I remember the story I told you at the beginning where I was like, I leapt out of a stable but soul crushing. It was a business that I created. So it's not just corporate America that can crush your soul. But what happened is I went to a presentation and the speaker said one sentence, and sometimes that is all it took. That's all it takes is one sentence. And now that I reflect on it 16 years later, I realize that it is kind of like, this is what coaches do. This is who they help. This is what you help people see. And this is what shook me out of my stuck place. And frankly, was part of the path to get me here today. So here's the quote. A major source of unhappiness in the world is people settling for what is passable instead of reaching for what is possible. Every time I present, what I hope for that presentation is that I have made what is possible, reaching for what's possible, seem just a little bit more within your reach. And that is it. Ta-da! I don't know if there are announcements that still need to be done, or if we have time for some questions or comments. I always love to hear what stood out. Oh, thanks, Kara. And Monique. Tati, is there anything you need to wrap up?
I just wanted to say one more important thing. This is what we do in our coaching community. Our long-standing leader and a facilitator of this event, it actually was 30th Launchpad today. Unfortunately, Elena couldn't be here. She has something challenging in her personal life. And if it feels supportive, guys, go on her LinkedIn page. She openly shared what's going on with her. And if it feels like something that you would like to do, send her some love, support, that she knows everything she does for us, we really value and appreciate. Other than that, I shared upcoming events in the chat. Once again, we also invite you to share your feedback on this session. And if Mary is open for 4 minutes Q&A, we are here.
Yes, I'm here.
I got a question.
Yeah, Kriko.
Well, you took 12 years to come up with a niche. So, like, I'm curious, like, what was transpiring between the, like, year 1 and year 12? And some sort of questions, series of questions is like, well, you were earning and learning, but were you actually sort of picking niches or trying out niches? And, like
Yeah.
you said, you have to pick a niche, like don't not pick it, don't wait. So you're probably experimenting. Is that what's happening there?
Yes, that's exactly what's happening. And if you think about those two things, so I said niche, earn while you learn. Earn while you learn means think about who is your ideal client, like in a general sense, especially their psychographic, like who are they? What transition are they going through, regardless of what industry? Okay. So, what do you know about the people you like to work with and who you will serve? So, ideal client, and then target markets. So target markets are like niches with training wheels. Let's call it that. Okay. So it's like, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to try out. And that's what I did. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try financial planners and I'm going to try all these different things. And I was getting business through most of them. It was just a matter of where was it easiest? Where were my clients most successful? And so it just narrowed and narrowed and narrowed. And I cut out a few very quickly. Yeah.
Okay. What about I know Andrea mentioned this too, but expanding your niche. So like I have picked a niche and that's a very B2C oriented approach. But in the future, I'd love to go B2B. So that niche changes like quite a bit. So will you talk about expanding and maybe what applies to me too?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is why the model, the client generation model is so important, because I wouldn't call that a niche change. I'd call that a service delivery. So pricing it, your packaging is different. So right now your packaging, your services include B2C. You want to expand your services when you look at all the other elements. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example and I'm hoping the parallel will be clear. Okay. So imagine, if you will, it is it's March 10th, 2020. Y'all there? The world is about to change significantly, and I panicked early. You're welcome. Okay. I freaked out, broke down, cried. Everything's falling apart. Everything I've done for 12 years is going to go down the toilet, all the things. Picked myself up and I said, okay, new market conditions. I took out my 6 elements of client generation. I said, what needs to happen? What needs to be adjusted? A change has been made, but this can also be when you make a change. change has been made in the world. I decided I needed to change my messaging slightly. I decided to pull my pricing down a little bit because I knew if I could keep momentum, then I wouldn't buy into the fear and scarcity. And I'd also be serving people during a really tough time. And so I adjusted those two things. So that's why getting the model in place makes such a difference, because when something changes or you want to change something, I mean, then you're just adjusting to make sure everything stays aligned rather than going, okay, I want to add something back to the drawing board. Okay. Yeah. Good times. All right. Well, we are at our
Yeah.
time. I am
Let's be
committed to going.
mindful of everybody's time. Once again, everybody find the react button, send whatever you feel sending to our presenter today. Mary, you are amazing as usual. Bunch of useful information. I am sure everybody wheels are spinning. Where is our hearts and emotions, guys? This is the least we can do. Everybody, have a wonderful day. Hope to see you Wednesday. And Mary, I know we will see each other throughout the year all over the
Forever and ever.
places. Because you say Mary Kravitz, you think ICF all the time. So thank you everybody for joining us today. We will see you Wednesday. Until then, have a good one.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Okay, I guess I need to stop recording. How do I stop record? Oh, stop recording. Okay. You sure you want to stop recording? Yes, you will receive an email. Okay.